So, a little bit of news this morning in the Formula One world. 3 drivers disqualified following the round of China. Both Ferrari cars, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Leclerc was under required weight. Hamilton's car, they had something going on with the thickness of the plating assembly. Was not thick enough. And then the 10 Pierre Gasly car for Alpine was also underweight. So a bit of drama to start off the Formula One season here. 3 disqualifications in the second race. Welcome to the Who's That Driver podcast. Wow, off to a great start. This podcast I've decided to start up. My name is Zach Rogers. If you don't know me, I've been around the NASCAR Racing 2003 community for going on my 10th year this year. As far as online racing goes, for offline stuff, bit longer. But I wanted to start this podcast to spread countless stories that have happened throughout the community over the years, through both myself and guests, as well as different driving styles, rivalries, wheel and or controller settings, etc. And looking to have a good time in the process and have some good laughs. So I kind of got the idea for this a few years ago, and we actually had another member in the community do something like this late last year. Tristan Grace did the McBasket cast, actually had me on for an episode. It was a great time, really kind of motivated me to start this. So I didn't want to do an episode 0 of just myself talking for an hour because I ramble quite enough. So I figured we'd just go right into doing guests. So I've got my first guest on with me today here for episode 1 of Who's That Driver? And it's none other than a great friend of mine, Andrew Miller. What's up, Andrew?
What up, Zach? Oh, great start there for me too. But so glad to be talking to you here. I mean, you and I, yeah, we've been doing a lot of stuff over on my channel. So, and heck, we got to meet up fairly recently. And yeah, I'm very glad to be able to call you a friend, and glad to be the first guest here. I'm going to try my best to not be super duper awkward, but I've been looking forward to this once you came to me with this, so I'm glad that we're making it happen.
Yes, indeed. And you know, the thumbnail for this first episode will be our meetup photo. For those who are wondering, I'm on the left with the Alpha Wolf hoodie, and Andrew's the tree branch to my left, so on the right of the thumbnail. Yeah, it was a great time. We got to go to Buffalo Wild Wings. How did you enjoy your Buffalo Wild Wings experience? I think you said you did, but just tell the world if you did or not.
Oh, I absolutely did. Good, very good food, and I definitely could have gone a little higher on the spice than I did, but it was still pretty good. I did lemon pepper for those curious. But I have also found out that the boneless are cheaper than the regular wings. So, as someone who prefers the boneless, that was a plus too. So, if that's your thing, yeah, Buffalo Wild Wings, I would definitely give them the nod.
Yeah, actually, that was my third or fourth time to that Buffalo Wild Wings. So I decided to get a little aggressive with the spice. So I got chicken tenders with jam and jalapeno sauce on the side. And boy, that stuff had me blowing my nose so much that I like ran out of like stuff to blow. As disgusting as that sounds, it felt like the spice was like under my eyelids, like it had reached that deep into my sinuses. So that was a strange feeling, but man, that sauce was good. So yeah, it was a great time. And yeah, we've been having a great time on your channel, Andrew, the top dragster network for those that don't know. We've done countless streams now for NNSCRA, Bomb Squad, and Hobo Racing. Actually, this week coming, I'll be doing 2 broadcasts with you on Wednesday and Thursday for Bomb Squad at Darlington, Trucks on Wednesday, Cup on Thursday, and then you've also got a Hobo Tuesday. You said, I believe you've got a Joshua 2 coming on. Is that right?
That is the current plan. So we're definitely looking forward to that one. And then also April 3rd is going to be CCR. Steve Grant's got me on board for their season finale. Gosh darn it, I can't remember where it's taking place. I would have to look at the email, but so at the very least, we do have three streams coming up this coming week as of when this is being recorded, and then after that is uh, Hobo and then CCR. And as it stands right now, every Tuesday night we're doing the entire Hobo Cup Series season. So that's what we got on the cards for right now. But there's definitely going to be some more coming. It's just going to be a matter of getting those put together.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a great time doing online commentary. Offline commentary was fun for a long time for me, but it just kind of started to lose its luster. It's a lot more fun doing online because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, you can predict it to a degree, but eventually the predictability, it only goes so far. So it's a total blast. Been having a great time doing it with you.
And it's been awesome, and you've helped me out tremendously with those, and I can't thank you enough for that. But yeah, I'm with you on the offline stuff. I mean, I did that for about a year or so, and had a lot of it got things started. I was able to build a bit of a community with that, and then yeah, I'm with you. Things just got it got a little old because there's only so much you can do with the AI and how they race. Um, so once I had made the transition to actually racing online and then getting into the commentary side of things, I just find it so much more unpredictable. Even if maybe the car counts, obviously you could set however many you want with offline stuff, but no matter what the car count is, you're still gonna get like they're real people racing. Everyone's got their different driving styles, as you've mentioned, as we'll probably find out throughout this podcast's run. But yeah, I just find it so much more enjoyable to actually commentate that and not really know what to expect.
Indeed. So before we dive further into NASCAR Racing 2003, which will be the main focus of this podcast, let's dive a little into what got you into motorsport. So, who was your first favorite driver, and which motorsport uh, was that driver from?
Let's see. The very, very first motorsport, I hope this counts, but the very first motorsport that I ever remember getting into as a very, very little kid was actually Monster Jam. And I was a big Dennis Anderson kid, Gravedigger. I don't know. I always loved that truck. I love Dennis. Um, so that was like the very first one, but my dad fairly casually watched NASCAR. Um, he said like around the time that I was born, he was a little more of a hardcore viewer, and then just I guess once the kids came along, kind of fell off a little bit. But he still watched, and of course, I would watch too. And so if you want to get into like more of that side of things, NASCAR would have been the next motorsport that I like got really big into, and Jimmy was my guy. Jimmy Johnson still is. Anytime that I see him on the racetrack, I'm always rooting for him, even if things don't always go too well anymore. But um, yeah, it's just obviously a great driver, but seems like overall a great dude, and I've been able to latch onto that and have someone to root for. And then over time, it gradually went into open wheel, and I would say that's kind of the full intro to the world of motorsports. But of course, as a little kid, seeing a giant truck crush cars just made me go, "Yo, it's awesome!"
Yeah, I can definitely agree. I remember watching the hell out of Monster Jam growing up. Rest in peace, Speed Channel. I mean, I would watch Monster Jam, Supercross, rally cars. I mean, I loved the dirt stuff, really. Like, I loved those forms of like dirt motorsports, and of course, the Monster Jam stuff was always great. I loved the freestyle stuff, and I mean, it's crazy. Like now, I've seen clips of Monster Jam over the years, and they do all kinds of like backflips and front flips now, stuff that they never did when we were growing up. I mean, they've gotten really brave with what they can do with those trucks. I mean, it's a sight to behold. And Supercross, I try to tune in when I can, but I mean, we had the NBC Sports Network for a while, and then they got rid of that too. So now you kind of just have to go on Peacock and know when these things are going live, and I just don't really keep up with it anymore. But I was definitely right there with you. I was a huge Gravedigger fan. I liked a few of the dog trucks because I loved the dogs growing up, so I liked any of the dog trucks. El Toro Loco was also a favorite of mine. Just the design was really cool to me.
Oh yeah.
And of course, I think we both had the common. Maximum Destruction was the hated rival of the Monster Jam universe. But mad respect to those guys on all they did. So like Jimmy, obviously, favorite driver growing up. Do you have like a second driver? Because obviously Jimmy's more part time now, but it's still cool that you root for him, even if it's not really the heyday. But you had to be happy about the third at Daytona.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome. I'm just glad that he was able to get through that final rank. And I was like, oh hey, Jimmy finished third. Heck yeah. I was quite delighted at that. I mean, I wouldn't say that I really have like a hardcore favorite nowadays. I just like if I'm able to watch a race, then I'll definitely watch it. And I'm able to get I have I this is just me. I have more fun just getting to watch the action, especially if it's like with my dad still. Me and him got really into the Daytona 500. I know a lot of people panned that race, but I had a great time watching it. And but if I did have to pick someone nowadays, if I had to, probably Tyler Reddick. If I had to pick one, again, also just seems like overall a fairly fairly well cleaned up driver from what I can tell. I don't keep up with it quite as much as I used to, but yeah, I still see all the results and everything. And so if I'm going to root for anybody, it's going to be Tyler Reddick. But all in all, if a good race happens, even if Denny Hamlin wins, which I will be 1,000% honest, is probably my bottom tier driver. Even if he wins, if it's in like exciting fashion, it's like, hey, I've had a good time. I don't care.
Yes, indeed, man. I totally agree. I remember growing up, I was more of a Dale Jr. fan myself. Also was huge on Tony Stewart. And then as the years progressed into like the early 2010s, I became a really big Martin Truex Jr. and Austin Dillon fan. And those two, they were my guys for pretty much all of the 2010s. So it was a great feeling seeing Truex get that championship in 2017. And like now, Austin's not really the driver I like too much anymore. Just some of the antics he's gotten up to in the past few years, I can't really get behind. So now I root for Kyle Busch, who's grown on me over the years, and also Denny Hamlin. Believe it or not, for some. But those are my main two right now. But who I'm really looking forward to rooting for in the coming years will be Connor Zilic. That kid is so fast.
Okay.
He's part of the Red Bull umbrella too, so I'm a Max Verstappen fan for Formula One, so that'll be right up my alley. Just rooting for another Red Bull guy. Same with Shane Van Gisbergen, who's already in Cup. So those are like my main four guys right now: Kyle Busch, Denny, Van Gisbergen, and Silich. And there's also a few other guys I like. Um, one driver I do not like is Joey Logano. So I don't know. You got a driver you don't like right now?
Well, I think I kind of alluded to it, and I'm so sorry to say that Hamlin is one. But that's just me. And again, any favorite or least favorite that I have is just um, I don't know. I'm not like hardcore. It's not like my day is ruined if one of them wins. I definitely, yeah, I'm not the biggest Logano fan either. I do not care for Austin Dillon after what he pulled at Richmond last year. Um, but I mean, you can make any argument there, and I won't lie that sure, when I watched it, in my I fell victim to like, oh my gosh, look at that kind of thing that I'm sure that NASCAR is kind of going for now, and I it it was exciting. I can't deny that, but yeah, I didn't care for that. So I would say, yeah, if I had to pick like a bottom three, it'd be Hamlin, Logano, and Dylan. But I again, not super hardcore on any of that. Now, if you want to talk Formula One, though, I'm a huge Ferrari guy, so even seeing that disqualification today was like, you've got to be kidding me. But I digress.
Yeah, indeed. So, past week of racing, we had NASCAR at, oh boy, where were they? Vegas. So good weekend of racing at Vegas, and currently this weekend they are at Homestead. Xfinity race was really good yesterday. Cup race hasn't started yet. We're recording this at about 1:15 in the afternoon, but Xfinity was really good yesterday, and I watched Trucks on Friday as well, and that was fun too. Shane Larson won't be able to attempt the sweep. That late race yellow yesterday evening really screwed the pooch on that 17 team. I mean, they were gone. They had like a 15-second lead over Sam Mayer. I mean, he was just lights out. And he got a poor restart because Sam Mayer was lifting the rear tires off the ground on him, and that let Austin Hill and Justin Allgaier duke it out, and Allgaier came away with the win. So happy for Allgaier since apparently he had never had a top five at Homestead before, and gets his first top five with a win.
Yeah, there you go. That's pretty big. That's surprising for Allgaier, as long as he's been doing it. No top fives, so credit to him there. I have not seen the highlights yet for that one, but you'll have to maybe see how it came down there at the finish. But no, that's pretty cool. We'll see what the Cup Series holds. I mean, Homestead is, Homestead's one of those tracks that you either get like an incredible race going on, or yeah, as just said, someone just is see you later, and second place is half a lap behind them. Just depends on how you've got the how you got the car hooked up, I guess. And but of course, then you have the penultimate race last year when it came down to, was it Hamlin, Blaney, and Reddick, I think, and they were all getting into a crazy three-man battle there that resulted in Reddick getting it. So um, yeah, Homestead is definitely a great track and one of my favorite tracks to race on too in the sim.
Oh yes, I love racing at Homestead. The last few years, it's really become a great track for me. I'll be racing at Fast tonight. They're running Homestead, so I'm hoping to get another one and make it 4 wins in a row for me. But even if I don't, I mean, it's been a great start to the season for me. So, with that said, let's dive into NR 2003. For those that don't know what NR 2003 is abbreviated for, that is NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Simulation made by Papyrus Games back in 2003. Papyrus is now iRacing. So, for those of you that know iRacing, you've got a little bit of code, most of the code from NR into that sim. But so for you, Andrew, quick answer question. How long have you been in the NR 2003 community?
On the online side, it would have been November 2017 when I started. So that would be 7.5 years now of racing, and yeah, it's been a good ride so far. Of course, I'm sure yeah, we'll get into some more stuff here, but that's the current tenure.
All right, and how did you get into NR 2003? Now that's not just limited to online; that can be with offline. So like whenever you discovered the game, how did you get into it?
So in the little NASCAR group that I became a part of, um, there was there was someone in that group that I guess Tristan Allen was helping him with some NR stuff, and I became introduced to Tristan at that point, to Tristan Allen, who, if anyone knows that name, been around the block a little bit with NR stuff, but it was actually Tristan that introduced me to it and said, "Oh yeah, you could do like these offline series with this. You can put whatever name you want on whatever car, and you could just let them all race it out, and wherever everyone finishes is where they finish." And that piqued my interest, and probably around uh, early 2017 or maybe even late 2016. I couldn't exactly tell you, but that's when I started trying my own hand at some offline leagues and series. It culminated in a very embarrassing series that I did that kind of got my foot in the water. That series thankfully no longer exists because that channel no longer exists. But it at least was enough to get my feet wet with it, and just kind of blew up ever since.
Awesome. I mean, that's really cool to hear. You know, for me personally, I had the game when it came out because I had NASCAR Racing 4 and NASCAR Racing 2002 season beforehand. So I had got NASCAR Racing 4 at my local Kmart. Like that's like one of my oldest memories because I was like not even 4 years old yet. And then I remember we got
Good old Kmart.
2000. Oh yeah, I remember we got 2002. I forget if that was also at Kmart or not, but we got 2003 at Staples. So Staples used to have like PC games. They'd have like the learning games, but they also had like the game games at the local Staples. So I remember seeing 2003 one year on our way out, and I was like, "Oh, look, Mom, the new one came out. Can I get it?" And she was like, "Sure," and we got it. And I remember at the time it could not really run on the computer we had because we had an old Windows 98 computer. But I would just fool around on any of those three games, Racing 4, O2, O3, and it was just always a blast. I don't know what happened to my Racing 4 disc, and my O2 disc stopped working. I still have my O3 disc, but you know nowadays everything's been uploaded and you just download it off the internet and do a fresh install. You don't really even need the disc anymore, which is great. But cool to say that you know I had a disc when it first came out. But community wise, I was 6, so we didn't do anything with the internet or anything like that. I just used it to mess around. I would drive backwards at Coca-Cola Super Speedway and cause like funny wrecks all the time. I remember getting like one of the Twister glitch wrecks when I was like 8 or 9 years old at Coca-Cola. It was just pulling out off a pit road at Coca-Cola and driving head on into the AI doing like 240 plus, and I managed to get Rusty Wallace to do a death tornado. So that was pretty funny. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like the car just looked like it was spinning at a rapid rate. It was ridiculous. But
TNT man vibes.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But I would mess around racing wise more on like NASCAR Racing 4 using the keyboard because that was the game that computer would get the most frames for. Community wise, I got into the community around 2013 because I remember stumbling upon Trent Dunham's Sega Cup series. That was the first offline series I ever saw. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And when I saw that it was like different people's names and signed up and it was like an equal ratings thing, and I was like, I understood like what it was without having to really ask. And I was like, oh, this is sick. Because I had messed with ratings before. And like I remember giving in NASCAR Racing 4, I gave Dale Earnhardt and Earnhardt Jr. max ratings. And then I had all these like custom fictional drivers of like just characters from movies or shows. Like I had Anakin Skywalker in a car. It was like really goofy. And I would just like use the in-game paint shop to change the colors of the cars so that they would differentiate a bit. But so I knew my way around what the ratings did. So I got in 2013. No one really knew who I was for a while cuz I just like started my YouTube from nothing. Didn't have Facebook at the time. So I just was like recording on this dinky Walmart MP3 player. I could get about 10%, 15% race onto that thing. And a lot of the time I'd be whispering to record because I would do it at my dad's on my dad's computer. This was like 2013 I did this. So I did that. 2014 I got my own laptop, so I started being able to do it on my computer. And that's when Alan Cavanero got me hooked up with his league Neymar and started to give me a bit of an identity, started spreading my name out there. And then 2015, I started doing races against the AI with this car set that was made by Labonte Fanboy. He had a very extensive car set for the GNS mod, and I was doing like a career playthrough. And I was mainly just goofing off, not giving a shit. Like I would crash the AI, get mad. I had a webcam on and everything. It was just total funsies. And by that point, I knew a couple of guys from the YouTube space, such as Dylan Young and Zachary Fitzwater. to name two people. But Dylan Young saw me doing.
Fitzy.
Oh yeah, old Fitzy. Dylan Young saw me doing the the races with the AI, and he's like, "Hey, like you're not too bad. Like maybe you should do online." And I was like, "Wait, there's online?" Like I had no idea. I thought like because there were no servers that people couldn't do it. So I was like, "Oh heck yeah, man! I'll do it online." And because I was on controller by that point, so late 2015, about November, a week or two before Thanksgiving, I had my first NR 2003 league race. I was the number 6 Kevin Harvick Incorporated truck in the CTS mod, which, so funny enough, number 6 was the first number I picked. And it didn't, number 6 didn't mean anything to me back then in late 2015 as it does now. Like now, like that's kind of my identity. But back then, like it was just, oh, it's just a truck that's available and it's a Chevy and I like the scheme. So I ran it. So we ran Pig Stadium. We ran the, I think it was at the time, the Domino's Dash series was the prelude to the Icebreakers series. I qualified second in both races, and in both races, I was in a spot to win at the end, and steering assistance kind of bit me, and I caused wrecks on the last laps in both races. So that was that was how I got into this community, and man, it's been such a fun journey. Andrew, what did your first league race look like? You know, the number, the mod, the track, the works. Like, what was that look? What did that look like for you?
I got you. It was it was also the original truck mod, or original CTS mod, and it was a very small league that Tristan also raced in. Yeah, Tristan Allen, he also got me into the online side of things. And I think I'd initially attempted some races with, I'm wanting to say it was the USORL, but I'm not positive on that. But I think I didn't have the right core and I kept falling out of the server and I had a lot of issues. So I think I was like, oh, well, I guess I won't be able to do that. But then fast forward a few months and we try again. And I think after I realized what the problem was and Tristan and them guys, they were like, "Oh, this is probably why you're not able to stay in the server." And probably, I think they probably gave me the core, and then that was able to work out just fine. So it was the Throwback Racing League Truck Series. That league has long, 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 long debunked. Um, and yeah, it was only like 7 of us, I think. I know that Seth was in that race. I know that Matt Stern was in that race, or we now know him as BSR Silver Bullet. Um, Phil Parker. Is Patrick Schaefer in that? I can't remember. But that was my very first race, and it was at North Wilkesboro. And I drove okay. I think I finished fourth, which I know in a 7-car league it really isn't that good, but it was a stepping stone. I think I only spun like once, and me coming off of driving in like Formula One 2013 and like the U Technics NASCAR games. I was used to like the more arcade like driving style. So to go from that to simulated was very difficult. So I was really struggling to keep the truck straight, but found a way. It was open setup, so that definitely it both hurt and helped at the same time. And I drove the number 41 truck that Dario Franchitti apparently drove at some point or another. And I just saw that one and went, "Oh, that's kind of funny. Let me drive that one just for the heck of it." And over time, I was just kind of trying to, yeah, still find my identity. And it took a few years before I adopted the 47 and the 86 as my two primary numbers. 47 mainly because the JTG font was very easy to paint with, and now that's kind of become like my main number. And then 86 became a number in some leagues. And I still stick with that in some places, and that's because that's my birthday, August 6th or 8/6. So that was kind of easy to go with. Any other numbers that I had used in the past were just kind of random picks of like, that number's available. I might as well do it. But I think 41 and 86 at this point are like the mainstays that if I can stick with them, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I mean, I got you completely. So you brought up the car count. That was one thing I didn't mention with my race. So the dash race, both races were at Pig Stadium, and the track was easy enough. It was flat out CTS. You just had to mind the bumps, over the concrete to asphalt transition. And I had a little experience with the steering assistance and my controller because of the playthrough stuff I had been doing. But so the dash race, I think we had like 12 or so. It was definitely less than 15. But like I said, I qualified second, had a shot at the win, didn't get it. But then the icebreakers race had 28 people show up. So I remember qualifying second, and obviously, steering assistance helped, and it was flat out CTS. But I remember qualifying second, and people were like, "Who the hell is this guy? Like, where did this guy come from?" Like, no one knew who the hell I was. So to qualify second, even though it was CTS and it was a 28 truck field, probably gave me a little too much confidence out the gate because I got my reality check in the months to come. But I mean, it was still a totally fun time. Regardless, I remember I have a highlights video of that race up on my YouTube to this day. That was how big of a deal it was to me. I made the highlight video, as an offliner at the time. That was a really big thing. So I'll answer this next question first. So my first league win came in Dash. We ran this weird short track called Killcare. And it was like this triangle shaped thing. I remember it was so tight. Like we were all just bouncing off the walls. Some of us were spinning. I mean, the right front just cooked to like no degree. But I remember managing to hold on, and I got my first win at Killcare, and that was on controller. I want to say that was early 2016, sometime in January, early 2016. So what did your first league win look like, Andrew?
This may sound like I'm gloating a little bit, but this is actual truth. Same league that I got my start in, and same series even, and this was only 2 months into my career, you could say, and it was at Watkins Glen, and this is when I discovered that oh yeah, road courses are a best friend of mine, and I do have the race saved, on a replay, it's just on a separate hard drive, but, so I don't remember the exact, circumstances that got me up into a position, but I do remember that it came down to myself, Phil Parker, and Robbie Jackson at the time, now goes by Robbie Gilvin, but, the 3 of us were racing for it. Robbie was the car to beat, but I think he ended up in 3rd and I was in 2nd on the last lap. We were going up the S's. Uh, he we ended up being side by side going into the S's, and I wasn't gonna yield, but at the same time, neither was he, and I think we did slam doors, and that kinda got him a little squirrely, so he kind of fell out of contention at that point, and then that was just me and Phil, and, I went for a gap that had opened up as we got through the bus stop and then going into the carousel, and I managed to get to the inside of him. Again, we also banged doors a little bit, but we both kept it pretty straight. But on the exit of the carousel, I cleared him and then just wanted to make sure I didn't outbrake myself in the final couple corners. And thankfully, I didn't. And that was my first ever league race win, only 2 months into my career. And I could tell a few guys were like, "Are you serious? This new guy, only 2 months in, he's into racing online, and he's already won." But me and Phil, I mean, Phil was even giving me props. He was saying like, "Dude, that was some great racing. You went banging doors. That was a lot of fun." Robbie wasn't too happy, but um, I think the replay kind of cleared up that it was just a racing deal. It wasn't really anyone's fault. And yeah, that really opened the floodgates when it came to road course racing, especially at Watkins Glen. There's a reason that whenever I see that track pop up on any series schedule, that I still really, really make it a point to race there. So That was win number one, and it probably took another 3 years before I finally got an oval win. But road course is where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, and to win on a road course, that's really impressive because they are pretty hard to win at on NR 2003. The way they like made the road courses drive on this game, a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people say it's wacky. It doesn't drive like a car should drive on a real road course. So there's definitely like a technique you have to apply in order to be fast on the road courses on this game. And if you can't apply it, then you're not going to have a fun time. So I mean, for you to win your first race at Watkins Glen, obviously it's the one of the easier road courses, but it's still a road course nonetheless. And I've seen many people still struggle on that track. They just struggle with the road courses. So I mean, that's a really impressive win for you to get your first win there. So you kind of already went over the things you struggled with. You were talking about how you went from arcade games to sim games, so you had to adjust in that vein. Who was your first mentor that helped you make those adjustments, if there was one?
Hmm. Well, with Tristan getting me into the game, he definitely was able to give me some good pointers. Um, but I guess over time, I know that Seth would help me out a little bit. Um, wanted to say that actually it may have been Julian Wilson at one point who was like the first guy to really like be like, "Hey, try this setup, and we'll try to get you pointed in the right direction here." But this was after a little while racing like icebreakers, and I know that KJ would run there fairly frequently. And I guess he saw something that he was like, "All right, let's try to give him a boost." And
Yeah, I mean that's cool. I remember KJ really helped me out with open setups in 2018 when he came over the icebreakers. Him, Matt, Pat Schaefer, and I were like this one big four-car team that just kind of came together. I don't even remember how it really happened. We just kind of formed this team. And they helped me with setups, and that was when I won probably my biggest championship to date, was that open setup championship in icebreakers, which was due in part to the fact that Julian was getting married at the time when we were having our finale. So Julian couldn't be there. So I
oh
got
yeah, I think I remember that.
I got lucky. He ended up he wasn't in the final four, and I got a little lucky there, but I still had to race my tail off against Matt and a few other people. So that was quite the first championship, though. So Julian, I would say, was definitely a good mentor for me in the open setup realm. But if I were to say who the real first mentor was, I would probably say Derek Justice. Even though he didn't like take me under his wing or anything like directly like that, Derek helped me out a lot with wheel settings and getting me to learn like, hey, like spend time learning how to miss crashes in practice instead of just piling in and making a big wreck. Like learn to do this. Don't listen to the admins, that, etc. Like a lot of things that I didn't really listen to in the moment, but that over time I've been like, yeah, like he had great points and he was just trying to help me out. So I would say Derek was definitely my first mentor, even though, as I'm saying in the moment, it wasn't like I was really listening to him. So so Andrew, I believe, are you still on controller or have you made the switch to wheel?
Still controller, even though them guys at Bomb Squad have been trying so hard and even gave me a wheel. But honestly, that's just because I don't have a PC. I still just race on a laptop. That's just a financial matter, pretty much. Um, it's what I'm used to, and that's still what I stick with. But I'm sure if the finances ever allow for a PC to be uh, achieved, then I'll probably try and see if I can make the transition at that point. But right now, we're still controlling it.
Yes, sir. And you still do a great job on controller. You're probably one of the best controller guys out there right now, among guys like Apollo Hyde and Sean Whitehill was a really good driver on controller back in the day. And I totally get the whole PC thing. You know, it's kind of like a lack of room thing almost. Like you kind of want to get a bigger desk so that you can get like a decent sized monitor when you get the PC, and then you can set up the wheel, and it's just a lot easier racing on a bigger screen. As someone who used to race on a laptop, I remember there was a moment where my video card burned out on my PC and I had to wait to get a new one, so I had to switch back to my laptop. Holy cow, the size difference. Never did I realize how annoying it was to race on a screen that small. I mean, at the time, it was all I was used to, so 17.3-inch screen was adequate for me. But once I started racing on the 27-inch monitor, then it felt so much better, and going back for a few months was just a pain in the ass. So I totally get not wanting to start racing with a wheel because of the laptop, but if you could squeeze the room, I mean, it definitely helps still a little bit, but I totally get waiting to have like a better setup.
And I think that will also be better for the broadcast too. Once that rolls around, again, it's just all a matter of kind of putting the money together. I will admit my financial priorities, I guess you could say, are kind of outside of the realm of NR, um, but still, I mean, if things do permit and things continue to take off with the broadcasting side of things, I think being able to have a PC and a better mic um, and then yeah, when I do race, being able to have the wheel, I've heard that it is just such a big difference as far as the feel and being able to drive more consistently. So I would definitely want to do something like that. It's again, it'll just have to be the right place at the right time, and um, once the once the numbers are there.
Yes, indeed. So, you know, talk about controller. Controller settings are a huge deal. Like, obviously, settings are a huge deal, regardless whether your wheel, keyboard, especially the settings guys have to run to make keyboard work well. Guys like Cody Lamas, Jovan Anderson when he was on keyboard, DJ Curtis when he was on keyboard. I believe DJ has a wheel now. Um, he still might be keyboard, but so, as a controller guy, Andrew, who did you get come up with your own settings, or did someone like tell you like, hey, like if you set up your controller like this, you'll be better off?
You know, it's funny. I've actually never messed with them. Whatever the default was is what I still use because I didn't know anything of how to adjust for that. And a lot of guys that I raced with used wheels, so they didn't really know. So yeah, whenever I plug it in, which I use a PlayStation 3 controller that I have a software that allows me to plug in the USB and it will be recognized. Um, and then I just kind of what I did was, since I was used to racing on like the F1 games, um, I I mapped the buttons and everything to the same things that it would be for the F1 game. So like X would be upshift, square would be downshift, R2 and L2 for progressive throttle and brake. I think I eventually set the circle button as clutch if I needed a clutch under caution. Um, and I'm wanting to say that the default linearity was 20%, and I think that's still where it is. Again, I've never messed with that. The only thing I've ever messed with was the steering ratio in case I needed to tighten it up or make it bigger. And otherwise, yeah, I I've never messed with it. I've never felt a need to mess with it. I'm just having fun with it, and it seems to be working. So, uh, who knows? Maybe I should play around with that a little bit more. But as it stands, I haven't really messed with it.
I mean, that's really interesting that you've just like kind of loaded it up and you were just like, ah, I don't need to look at that, and you've just like made it work. I mean, I remember for myself when I was on controller, I would run 30% linearity, 30% steering assistance, and I was on buttons. I never had triggers. so I was always on buttons, which was a pain. But so I like learned
Oof.
how to I learned how to play with the brake and stuff. And the funny thing is I never used the input momentum stuff, which probably would have helped me a lot. But so I always struggled on the low grip tracks, but I had a better time on the grippier tracks. But so over the years, I've heard and I've learned through using my wheel that if you're on controller, you probably want to have your linearity at 0, because the joystick is essentially the equivalent to like running like 90 degrees of rotation. So you would, if you want to try it sometime, try like 0% steering linearity, and then do your throttle and brake have triggers, or are they buttons?
They are triggers, which is nice because yeah, I have I can give it gradual input instead of just all or nothing. Thanks to R2 and L2 for that. It's kind of the same as, I guess it is an Xbox controller where you have the triggers, and you
Yeah.
can they have gradual press down, so there is that at least.
Yeah, so one thing you could try, I believe, is you adjust the throttle input momentum and the brake input momentum, and the higher you raise those, they create like a bit of a delay that like smooths out the input of the triggers, because even that, like you barely have any range compared to like pedals. So that could be another thing you could mess with. I think Joey Murphy, he always ran controller. I want to say he told me that he had his stuff around like 90% or so for steering, and then I think throttle and brake he had at 50. I think I tried it out once and it felt better, but I was also just like not wanting to change what I was already using. But it sounded like it works out well for a lot of the controller guys. But I mean, the fact that you're as fast as you are at the road courses with what you've got is really impressive, because I mean, we used to have great races at Bomb Squad in the CTS physics at the Glen, and you would be right there. Meanwhile, I'm on wheel and you're right there with me. So I mean, that's just amazing.
I try, and I mean, you're a hell of a driver on road courses yourself, so I don't know. I always see myself as kind of being maybe just being like a bit of a step behind. If I win a race, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's incredible, that's incredible. But I do again try not to toot my own horn too much, but I am pretty competitive, even especially at even like mile and a halves, and I can duke it up at super speedways. It's mainly short tracks, oddly enough, that I tend to suffer at, but yeah, it's I I've never really messed with that, so I may give it a try. I almost never ever run steering assisted except for super speedways, or tracks that I'm like having a hard time keeping it straight, and even then I will never go more than 10%. That is my cap. I'm like I want to try to keep it as real as I can, um, and I don't know, that just works out for me. I do have to run ABS though, even with the triggers. I still do have to run ABS. That's that's a big one.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get it. All right, Andrew. So as a guy who's done a lot of dumb things in his time on this game, speaking of myself here, what is the dumbest thing you've ever done on a track?
Oh boy, you're gonna put this on me.
Oh yeah, because I'm gonna say my
Oh brother,
dumbest thing after, but I want to know what's the dumbest thing you've ever done in a race.
boy. Um, let's see. There are three that immediately come to mind, and I don't know which one would be dumber than the others, so I'll just try to rapid fire them. One of them was intent wrecking someone. I've only ever done that one single time in my entire life, and felt awful for it. So
Well, that's way less
there's
than I
that.
can say. Who did you intent wreck?
It was Cody Lamas.
Okay, well, that's fair. I think I intent wrecked him once too. Well, I was wrecking and didn't care that I wrecked him. Something like that. That was
I
pretty dumb on my part.
yeah, I think that I was already getting upset over the fact that the series went to Lime Rock, which is another one of my favorite road courses, but then they decided that it was going to be the dirt version, and I was like, well, I guess I'll try it anyway. And I was having a miserable time with it, and there were other scenarios. I think I may have gotten into an argument in TeamSpeak with somebody else. I can't even remember exactly, but all I know is that I did accidentally crash him initially, and then I was like, okay, I'll give him the spot back, and then he kind of chopped me, being like showing me he was upset, which in hindsight I understand. But in that moment, I'm like, dude, it was an accident. Here, let me show you what a real wreck looks like. And then I wrecked him as he was going on the pit road, and I felt really stupid after the fact.
Has anybody ever intent wrecked you for something?
Not that I can remember, or unless if they ever did, then they immediately apologized. So I don't think it was ever on purpose.
I remember one of the early races I did. We were at Pocono for icebreakers, and I was racing Corey Williams for the win in the waning laps, and he like we were like tight through turn two, and he came. I think I slid up a little bit and got into him, but then I like was able to hit him in the left front and point him back straight. But he was pissed, and I remember him telling me after the race, he was like, "I'm going to teach this kid a lesson," and he just shipped me off into turn three and wrecked us both. Man, I was so mad. I was like, "Man, I didn't mean to. I straightened you out," and he was like, "Yeah, well, I had to teach you a lesson." So that was like the first time I ever got intent wrecked. I can't remember the last time someone's intent wrecked me. It's been a long time. It's been a long time for me since I've intent wrecked somebody too. It's been like probably going on 4.5 years now.
Well, that means you're doing something right then.
But
At least nowadays.
dumbest thing I've ever done was it was my last race on controller at the time. We were running Bristol at IORL, and man, I could not drive that track on controller. I just kept spinning and spinning, and eventually I was just like, screw it. I spun out in turn three with like two to go. The leaders had taken the white, and I just decided I'm just gonna sit here with my foot on the brake in the middle of the corner. And I track sat, and Jack Merkel was leading at the time, and he had nowhere to go, ran right into me. It cost him the race, which I heard actually, like literally only a few months ago, I heard that they actually rescinded the results back to the last lap. But
Oh,
the win originally went to Jeffrey McClintock. But yeah, Jack
oh,
Jack
that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Jack Merkel was really upset with me, and like it's funny because like we're cool now. I actually brought it up the other day, and Jack was like, "I think that's the only time I've ever been mad at you." That was early 2016. It was probably right around either this month or April 2016 that went down. So it's funny how long ago that is. But you know what they say, us racers have long memories. So you said there were two others. What were the other two?
I think another one. I think it was TDR, if anyone remembers that league. And I was like third at Richmond, and we were coming to a restart at the very end of the race, or we had a caution like toward the very end of the race, and we were going to have like maybe 3 laps, 4 laps on the restart. My dumb butt decided, yeah, tires are more important than I pitted. That did not go well. I finished like 14th. So that was pretty stupid. And I think the final one, and honestly, this is the one that I think I kicked myself the most for, and it was a race at ECT, East Coast Thunder. I decided to try a few one-off races over there. Um, and this was at Daytona, and I was racing with Chevy Chase, BSR Chevy Chase, and the caution came out like right as we were around the start finish line, to take the white flag, and I was debating like, did I take it? Did I not take it? Because I was leading at the moment that I crossed the stripe. Lo and behold, we didn't take it. I lifted a little, and Chevy Chase won.
Oh man.
And that is when I forever realized, okay, no matter what, you keep your foot in it if you're ever unsure. And that's probably the one that I am kicking myself the most for, because that cost me a win. But the other two are also like, bro, what were you doing? But yeah, as far as the intent wreck thing, I mean, as far as I know, it's never happened to me. I've and I've only ever actually gone and wrecked someone that one time. It takes a lot to get me like upset, especially like if you see me like dooring somebody because I'm mad, or if I brake check somebody under caution because I'm mad, that means that they've done something that really made me upset. That's like basically my equivalent of going off the deep end.
Meanwhile, little old me here gets upset over the tiniest touch. So,
At least you're honest.
for the most, I tend to get over it in like 2 seconds now. But I used to drive me crazy. But
You've chilled out an awful lot. I will admit, because I've been
oh,
racing with you as well for most of my career, pretty much here. Career, I say.
okay. So we got two more questions we'll do here for our NR segment, and then we've got two more segments, and then we'll wrap this baby up. But don't go anywhere. Still got all those questions to come. So Andrew's talked about wins. Is there a race win that means more to you than any other win? Do you have a win that matters that much?
A win that matters the most. Oh boy. That would probably be. Hmm. I would say that's probably a toss-up between um the NNSCRA Spring All-Star race that ran last year, because that was a win that came on JTN, which I hadn't won very many broadcast races before. And that was pretty special because it was against a huge field, and I was able to hold off Jeremy Jeffries at the end. So that was pretty sweet. Another big one that comes to my mind. Again, this is a toss up between these two, I think. It's between that one and the Fast Dash series, the old Mountain Dew Dash series. And I was in a race that included guys like Tommy Bordeaux, Davey Hazard, um, Sean Whitehill, Randall, all the heavy hitters over at Fast. And this was at Dover. And I was able to win, um, while fending off Tommy Bordeaux at the very end. I did have to throw a block on him on the back stretch, which, or no, it was the front stretch. It was one or the other, but he yielded to it, and I could tell he was maybe a little unamused at that. But it was like, hey, I had to do what I had to do, and I could tell that everyone knew that. Everyone was pretty into it. But I think just with the caliber of driver that I was driving with at the time, and for me to be able to win pretty much on merit with them, was like, oh my gosh, I've done it. I've gotten into the big leagues, kind of thing. So I would say it's a toss up between those two.
Yeah, I mean, that's really cool to hear. I've got way too many wins to count now. It's kind of hard to sift through them all. And
So
and
200 plus wins.
yeah, it's really hard to sift through them all. I kind of have to go back to some of the early ones to really find races that mean a lot to me. One such win that I could say means a lot to me: Season 9 IMRC Cup finale at Homestead. It came down to myself, Dylan Poteet, Jovan Anderson, and Chris Wetz gunning for the championship. And I was probably, looking back, the least favored out of the four of them to win it. I was just really happy to be there. Um, Poteet ended up blowing up, and Jovan Anderson got wrecked by a Warpy car that we were yelling at to get out of the way. And they didn't get out of the way, and they took out Jovan. I got to go right by, brought out a late caution, ended up being a 2-lap shootout. Everyone pit, so it came down to me and Chris Wetz, and I hit my marks. And I remember last lap, I like clipped the apron in 1 and 2. That let Wetz get next to me, but I gave Wetz the top so that I could just stay on the bottom going into 3 and 4. And if I had to slide job him, then so be it. And no contact occurred, and I got the win in the championship, and that was my like biggest fixed setup championship to date. And
I think I broadcasted that race.
man, did I have to race my heart out for that one. I don't know, it might have been the season after with the Dejan Tyler Mallon thing, because that was season 10. I
I
don't.
definitely, I everything that you just described there sounds exactly like what I actually streamed. I think you said IMRC, right?
Yeah, it was season 9 cup finale.
I
We'll
did
have
do
to
that
get a
race.
rain track. Oh wow! So I don't remember doing an interview for that one, but I remember. I think I recorded. I think I recorded my POV and uploaded it. Um, but yeah, I mean that was a big one. And then also that year, speaking of TDR, at Richmond, their fall race, I it was me and Robert Bockham all night. I was really good in that race. That was like one of the first times I was really good at Richmond, and I ended up winning the race over Robert. He ended up, I don't know if his tires fell off at the end, or he said after the race his headset died, which I'm not so sure if he was being honest or just trying to like not make me feel as good of the win, because at the time we were not really getting along. So I'm not sure if he had a problem with me or if he was just being honest, but I was stoked to win that race over Robert, because Robert was one of the best guys at the time. So that was a really cool win for me.
I remember him, hell of a competitor. Um, I haven't seen him on the track much lately, but oh man, if he wasn't contending for a win every week, that guy was freaking amazing.
Indeed, yeah, I'd love to race him again. It's haven't raced him since a Darlington race at Bomb Squad back in 2021, which was a great fight. All right, last question for our NR segment today. To Andrew, what is your favorite mod, favorite track, favorite league to race at, which I think I know the answer to that one, and your favorite physics type to race with? So it's a four-part question.
The physics type and the track are easy. It's CTS and it's gotta be Watkins Glen. I would say specifically the 2011 version, um, or 2017. That version also. I think 2017 was the version that I got my first win on. And yeah, those versions just agree with me the most. But any version of Watkins Glen, you can't go wrong. Favorite mod? Um, that's a tough one. I guess it would probably have to be Men Cup 19, only for the fact that that is like that 47 Powerade scheme. That is my like Discord icon and my YouTube icon at the moment. That I picture as like my scheme. That like that is synonymous with me, kind of thing. And Zach, I'm sure, and a lot of other drivers can relate to this. That you feel like you have a scheme that's like synonymous with you,
Oh
and
yeah.
I feel like this one is mine, kind
If
of
I
thing.
if I had to pick two paint schemes that I would feel like only I have run and I've never seen anyone else run them, are my two Hot Wheels cars. The one of them I ran in IMRC with that championship. It was my number 6 Scorchers Dodge Challenger that was painted by DJ Curtis. And then my other Hot Wheels car was the Spinebuster car that I had Cosman do for FTF. So those two I would say are synonymous with me, which funny enough, I haven't run the Scorchers car at all since the IMRC championship. Um and I just had the Spinebuster car made for another mod thanks to Cody Lamas on the adaptation. I'm gonna have to get it made for another mod and probably run it at fast or something, because I love that scheme and I just don't run it enough. But yeah, like those two, I would say back in the day, I was like, no one else is gonna run these. Like these are my schemes. So I totally get that. Favorite league to race at?
Oh my goodness. Bomb Squad's got to be toward the top of the list, regardless, just because there's such a chill group of guys that are always willing to help out through anything NR related or even outside of that. It's a very close brotherhood that they have. They always use that word brotherhood, and that's because that's true. I am a tagged member over there, so
I was gonna
and heck,
say,
I
if you
even
don't put them at the top of the list, you might lose your tag.
I'm a goo if you're watching this. I mean, good grief, I have their vanity plate on my car because I won it in a raffle,
Oh,
in
nice.
real life. Um, yeah, that thing has been on 2 different cars now, but yeah, that's gotta be up there. But I will admit, I do also have a lot of fond, memories racing with RTG, um, just because I mean, they had great car counts, and they were a good competitive group of guys that I can mix it up with sometimes. Again, I would often be on like the back foot compared to like the top guys, but um, yeah, I often found myself being pretty competitive with them, and being able to put on a good race with them too. So, and when I ran with them for a long time, I haven't run over there much lately. I haven't run much of anywhere lately. So I would say probably Bomb Squad currently. RTG would be right up there. Um, but that's a toss up. I have so many good memories of racing so many different places, and a lot of places that um, I'm just honored that I was even able to be competitive in and race in. So I know that's kind of like a very a very political answer almost of like, oh, you're making everyone happy, but it's true. It's really true that I'm just honored to be able to race with guys, including yourself, Zach, who are damn good, and being able to sometimes give you a run for your money.
I try. Um, thank you. I would say for me right now, I love racing at fast. It's just there's a good group of guys there. It's always competitive. Dumb stuff happens from time to time, but it's always competitive. Really going for that championship this year though. Since the last 2 years, I started too late and wasn't playoff eligible. So hoping to get that. That's one of the last things on my checklist. That and winning a race at Texas, believe it or not. So I'd say fast is at the top of my list. I really like racing with my good buddy Robert Kubat at his league IOR, and then I've enjoyed racing at RTG. I raced there a little bit last year. It was a new place for me to race at. Enjoyed racing there. Also enjoyed racing at Bomb Squad over the years. Fuel Racing League as well. I got a good lot of championships there and just had a blast. They run open setup cup physics. Not racing at Fuel anymore and currently cannot race at Bomb Squad, but I've had tons of fun at those leagues over the years. All right, so that'll wrap up this NR segment regarding the game itself. So our next topic section is real life impacts from sim racing. So, if at all, how has the community helped shape the course of your life? Whether positive, neutral, or which I don't think this has happened to you, or at times negative. So, like, how has the community shaped the progression of your life?
Well, if it is going to shape it, it would definitely be for the positive. Um, I think that it's allowed me to um, it, it it gets my strategic brain thinking. It gets my kind of puzzle solving brain going, which I think has kind of transitioned into certain like problem solving situations in real life. Um, I don't know, maybe even like my reflexes and my reaction time for certain things. So I would say the biggest impacts, honestly, have probably been in those regards. Of course, outside of any like friendships that I've made, definitely hoping to be able to meet with more guys. I've had obviously Zach, you and I met up recently, which was absolutely awesome. I've also been able to meet up with Seth Cole and some of the guys from the NSCRA, such as also Dylan Young. Of course, my one of my best friends ever, and my basically a brother to me, who's Alex or AG. The channel is I always got to throw him out there because that guy really is a brother to me. And even though he's only on the offline side of things, I still am glad that he's going as big as he is. So I think in those regards, the friendships, of course, were a big one. But honestly, I think the big thing has just been like how it's allowed myself to train my brain in a more like uh, to kind of learn patience, but also, yeah, like reflexes and being able to problem solve and strategize for different situations.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's done a lot for me. There have been tons of positive moments, but tons of negative moments, for me. But all in all, I've enjoyed the heck out of this roller coaster, being in the community, and have been really focusing on making it all positive now, and trying to really move away from any negative moments. So it's really cool to hear your perspective on it all. I know you kind of glossed over a few people you've met. Could you name a special interaction you've had with another community member? And I don't count because we already talked about it.
Darn it. Um, Honestly, and this is gonna, I think, let's see, one would have to be honestly the fact that the scheme that I drive in the Bomb Squad Cup series, whenever I do make a start in that, that is a scheme that was made for me by Brandon Hawken. And Brandon, I think, is probably like the biggest name or the most successful name that I've had the glory of being able to interact with. And um, I wouldn't say we were like ever like close friends or anything, but definitely he helped me out with a lot of things too. So I think just knowing what he does now is almost kind of like, and you were saying like Derek Justice really helped you out with some stuff, and I know that he went on to big stuff. So I think you and I both kind of had that. You with Derek, me with Brandon. Um, Me and Jovan Anderson have become pretty good friends, and I think we've both helped each other through some fairly, I will say, fairly shitty situations. So, Jovan, if you watch this, you're you the man.
Man's
Love
a
you, brother,
goober.
and Goober, the Muffin Man
Yeah,
himself.
yeah. Let it out
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
know the Muffin Man? Yes, I do. His name is Jovan Anderson, or BSR Ricky J, depending on who you ask. Um, So yeah, I would say that those are probably the main ones. I did have some run-ins with some people. One of them led me to rage quit YouTube at one point, but we're not going to go into that too much. So,
Yeah, I skipped that
um,
question. I skipped the whole who have you butted heads with question because I figured you're not really that kind of guy, so we don't have to
nah,
cover that.
nah, nah. I mean, I will say this, especially since you and I are kind of on the level that we are now. But there's no denying that at one point I maybe butted heads with you at one point or another. But honestly,
We
I think
did?
you and I both. I kind of at one point. At one point in time, I was not the biggest fan of. This is years ago, but you did kind of come off a little like arrogant.
Oh,
Which
yes,
is going to be
for
a thousand
sure.
percent honest.
Yeah, for sure.
but I think yeah. You and I obviously have both moved on from that, and hell, we're doing this Top Dragster thing almost pretty much collaboratively. That's the word I was looking for. But
It's funny you
no,
say that
that's kind of
because
where that stands.
I totally just don't have any memory of us ever having issues. So it's funny hearing you bring it up. I mean, it just reminds me of like all of these situations with people I've just kind of forgotten. The one example, it's not even really a big deal anymore because he doesn't use Facebook that much, and I was never close with him to begin with. But Carson Gum has me blocked on Facebook still, and I remember asking him like a month ago. I was like, "Hey, like, do you know you have me blocked? Do you remember why you blocked me?" He's like, "Oh, I have no idea." He's like, "I don't even go on there anymore, really, so it's whatever." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, no problem." I was just curious. He must have blocked me like back in 2016 or so. Like, I just have no idea why. So it's kind of one of those funny moments. Like, "Oh, yeah, the guy that wasn't even really a close friend of yours, like, he blocked you." Like, I don't know, but like, yeah, like, we're cool, so it don't matter. But yeah, Brandon Hawken, what a great guy. Always really nice. you could get wrecked by Brandon Hawken, and you just can't be mad because he's always such a nice dude when he talks to you, and I'm really happy for the stuff he's got going on this year, doing some real racing, and if I can get in touch with him, I mean, I might be able to maybe get him on for one of these things, but he's a busy man, so we'll
Hmm.
have to see down the line.
I think I'm still friends with him on Facebook.
Oh yeah, but so apparently the thing with Brandon is the thing he responds to the most is email. So he's an
Uh,
old soul. But I love Brandon. Brandon's the man. All right, so we're gonna get out of the NR sphere, and this will kind of be our last little topic of the show. Any other subjects you have interest in, whether it's music, movies, TV shows, the works? I know you and me are both big Sleep Token fans, so big fans of the same music. Sleep Token. Uh, Give me some other bands, and I'm sure I listen to them too.
well, let's see. Judas Priest is a big one. I mean, good lord, they sponsor my truck and Bomb Squad trucks. Um, let's see. Yeah, some classic metal, but also a lot more modern stuff like Sleep Token, like Ghost. I'm not going to deny I'm definitely a big fan of Ghost. I love their new song. Um, I've been to a baby metal concert. I will have no shame in admitting
Hey,
that. That was the
nice,
best. That's one of my favorite concerts ever. That was a hot crowd, man. Holy crap, that was an awesome crowd. Um, let's see, Shinedown is probably another one.
nice,
Breaking Benjamin, I would say too, still a
also
little bit.
nice. Yeah.
Um, there's a more niche guy who I listen to a lot. His name is Devin Townsend.
Okay.
Usually when I bring up that name, a lot of folks are like, "Huh?" But
I know who that is. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I don't listen to his
Probably
stuff,
one
but
of
I know who he is.
I think one of his biggest hits would probably be Deadhead or Kingdom. I think those are two of his bigger songs. Um, but yeah, just all things metal, pretty much. Outside of that, I love plane spotting, as nerdy as that sounds, but
Okay.
literally just yesterday, as of this recording, I went and for my dad's birthday, we went plane spotting over at Philadelphia International and just watched planes take off and land. It's literally what we do for fun whenever we can. Um, let's see. Outside of that, I play golf. I love bowling. Um, I've definitely jumped on, thanks to my partner, I've definitely jumped onto the Has Been Hotel and Sonic the Hedgehog bandwagons. They're sitting over here too, and they're laughing right now. But I would say those are probably the main ones. But all things metal music, you really can't go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge metal guy. Obviously, like Korn, Slipknot, Alpha Wolf's a big band of mine. I love those guys. Got to meet them last year at a show VIP thing that was great. Got them to sign a limited edition tracksuit jacket they did a few years ago. So I have not worn that coat since. It's just chilling in the closet. Maybe I'll get it framed one day, but for now it's just chilling up there. And you know me, I'm a big sci-fi guy. Of course, I got my book Death Craver. Check it out on Amazon if you want. Self plug, shameless self plug. You know what I mean?
It's your podcast, you can do that.
Yeah, of course. It's my podcast. But yeah, I mean, I got so many interests. It's not even funny. But yeah. So Andrew, this was a great time. Great first episode, I think, in my opinion. I will hopefully not have to do too much editing for this one. I might be able to get away with just uploading it the way it is, but I'm sure I'll find a few second gaps here and there that maybe I can touch up on just a teeny bit, but I'm not too worried about it. This is all just for fun. Anyway, I'm more concerned about the sound levels being right because the last podcast of this that I listened to, I won't deny, I will call you out. Your sound balancing was awful. Please do better at balancing people's mics because one person would talk and they would be really quiet, and the next person would talk, and they'd be blowing out your speakers. So sound balancing and mixing is very important, and I've been watching the sound levels for this whole episode. They seem pretty lined up to me. Thankfully, it's just me and Andrew, so it hasn't been too difficult. But Andrew, to the point. Thank you again, man. And now's your little time here at the end. Here, shout out any great friends of yours, of the now, of the past, and anybody you think maybe in the community would maybe be interested in doing something like this with me.
Well, I appreciate you, Zach, of course, for having me on board for this first one. Again, I'm hoping that this turns into something that yeah you can continue to build. And oh geez, yeah, the list of guys that I would love to hear from on this would be honestly endless from a number of different leagues. Let's see. Of course, I got to shout out Jaden. I love you a lot. Um, my family, my mom and dad, of course, if they were to somehow ever watch this. Let's see. Of course, Alex, AG the channel, um, good good friend, of course, and all the boys, Andy, Jamie, Ethan, Connor, Lance, all the little friend group that we've got going on. Um, and again, just glad that I'm doing my part in this community to make something make something happen. Again, even if real life kind of has to take the priority, and I haven't been racing as much, still, yep, just kind of doing my best with the broadcasts that I do. Just um, always trying to make it a little bit better, but all in all, if I can even do just a little bit for someone to have fun with, then that's really the bottom line. And uh, I don't know. I can't really think of much else at the moment other than just again, I appreciate you having me on board. This was really really cool.
I will say, as a former offline guy myself, I will totally be having offline only guys on this podcast in the future. So if Alex, if you're interested, hit me up. I don't have like a full schedule right now or anything. I'm trying to go like one or two people at a time and just schedule stuff out as I go. But Alex, if you would be interested, I'd love to have you. You're one of the guys I've never really talked to much in the community, but I know you've been around a long time and you've got a ton of knowledge and experience. So would be cool to have you, and there's definitely some other guys in the offline sphere that I'm looking to have on this thing as well. So Andrew, if you have any, even like one or two other people you think would love to do this, feel free to just throw their names out there. Even if they don't, it's just part of the question, man.
Well, you gotta get our boy Joven on here. I think.
Definitely.
uh, I
That
think that would
that
be sweet.
episode will probably end up being 2 hours long and be full of hijinks.
I have no doubt about it. I'm surprised that more hijinks didn't ensue in this one, but and Alex, oh man, um, that would be so freaking cool. Uh, and if you somehow were able to pull off having Brandon Hawkin on, obviously, I know that's a tall task. That would be the equivalent of like I don't know me trying to get I don't know Casey Atwood to race or something.
Yeah, I mean,
I
we'll
say that
have to
because Robert
see.
Bauckham tried getting him on.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, there are definitely some big name guys that I'd love to have on them. I was trying to get Randall Coleman to be my episode too, but he's also one of those very busy guys, so I'm not sure if he'll be available or not. But I'm gonna try to get him. And if not, I've definitely got some other guys. Got to shout out myself here. I got to shout out Cody Lamas for the logo. You need a logo when you're going to do a podcast, even if it's nothing crazy. So thank you, Cody Lamas, for the logo, and we'll be sure to get Cody on for an episode at some point here down the line. But that'll wrap up this episode of Who's That Driver? Andrew Miller, thank you for joining me, and looking forward to seeing you this week for some broadcasts.
Yeah, man, we're gonna have a lot of fun with it. Again, Top Dragster is the YouTube channel, and we'll be bringing, as we said, yep, a few races this coming week, and yeah, me and Zach and whoever else I have in the booth, we just we just have fun with it. We call it whatever happens, and it's just all in the name of good fun. So thank you again, Zach. Really, really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. And we'll have Top Dragster's YouTube channel linked in the description. And looking forward to seeing you guys for the next episode. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. This is your host, Zach Rogers, signing out. Thank you for watching/listening.